No dinner is just a dinner. It is sustenance. It is gathering. It is gossip. It is who is mad at whom, who wants to sit where, what we are eating, and can I have a little bit more? This was a complicated dinner. Planning, backstabbing, deceit, and I'm sure at least one disciple didn't have a clue about what Judas was planning. But none of them knew that Jesus was planning to change the words, change the meaning of another dinner. A bit shocking, of course, to mess with tradition, to use such violent language for blessings, broken, poured, body, blood. I am sure Peter looked at Jesus and wanted to say, Jesus, can you dial it back a little bit? This is dinner, not a lecture. Nothing was ever just a dinner for Jesus. Every moment was a time to teach, a time to see, a time to listen, a time to love. Let's sing together.
One bread, one body, one Lord of all, one cup of blessing which we bless, and we, the many, throughout the earth, we are one body in this one Lord. Gentile or Jew, servant or free, woman or man, no more. One bread, one body, one Lord of all, one cup of blessing which we bless, and we, the many, throughout the earth, we are one body in this one Lord. Many the gifts, many the works, one in the Lord of all, one bread, one body, one Lord of all, one cup of blessing which we bless, and we, the many, throughout the earth, we are one body in this one Lord.
It was the night. It was tonight. This is the night together where we are, and Jesus gathered with his disciples to have dinner together. Now maybe they thought it was dinner. It was just dinner. It was the way they always did it. But this was not the way. When he picked up the bread and he broke it and blessed it, he said, "This is my body that's going to be broken open for you. Every time you eat of it, I need you to remember me." And the same thing happened at the end when he picked up the wine to pour it out. Had they remembered the bread and what he had said at the beginning, or had they had a whole meal and were talking and Judas planning and others watching him and now everything going on? Did they remember what he said about the bread? And so were they shocked again when he poured out the wine and he said, "This is my very life, my very blood poured out for you. Every time you drink it, I need you to remember me." We need to remember him. Actually, I don't know if he needs us to remember him. We need to remember him. And we need to remember our call to be at table all the time, to be broken open and poured out as he started to his entire time in ministry. And he was going to really do it starting tonight.
Let us break bread together on our knees. Let us break bread together on our knees. When I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me. Let us drink wine together on our knees. Let us drink wine together on our knees. When I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me.
On this night that we take the bread, let us remember all of those who are targeted like Jesus was, those for whom the best intentions are not thought, that maybe when they're seen as a way to power. So Jesus breaks himself open in the midst of this, broken for us so that we can do the same. Let us eat together. The grapes from many places, for those many places where we are not, picked by hands that are not ours, that are often told they don't belong. As we pour this out, as we taste its tanginess and its sweetness, as Jesus knew his life was changing now, let our lives change as we drink together. Let us indeed drink together.
After saying this, Jesus was troubled in spirit, and he declared, "Very truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at each other, uncertain of whom he was speaking. One of his disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was reclining next to him. Simon Peter therefore motioned to him to ask Jesus of whom he was speaking. So while reclining next to Jesus, he asked him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." So when he had dipped the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. After he received the piece of bread, Satan entered into him, and Jesus said to him, "Do quickly what you are going to do." Now no one at the table knew why he said this to him. Some thought that, because Judas had the common purse, Jesus was telling him, "Go buy what we need for the festival," or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the piece of bread, he immediately went out, and it was night.
Within our darkest night, you kindle the fire that never dies away, never dies away. Within our darkest night, you kindle the fire that never dies away, never dies away. Within our darkest night, you kindle the fire that never dies away, never dies away. Within our darkest night, you kindle the fire that never dies away, never dies away. Within our darkest night, you kindle the fire that never dies away, never dies away. Within our darkest night, you kindle the fire that never dies away, never dies away.
The way of Good Friday, the way with prayer.
They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter and James and John, and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." He came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to say to him. He came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough! The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand."
I want Jesus to walk with me want Jesus to walk with me all along my pilgrim journey. Oh, I want Jesus to walk with me when I'm troubled. Lord, walk with me when I'm troubled. Lord, walk with me when my head is bowed in sorrow. Oh, I want Jesus to walk with me.
The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evildoers assail me to devour my flesh, my adversaries and foes, they shall stumble and fall. Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war rise up against me, yet I will be confident. One thing I asked of the Lord, that I will seek after, to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, and to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in God's temple. For God will hold me in God's shelter in the day of trouble. God will conceal me under the cover of God's tent. God will set me high on a rock. Now my head is lifted up above my enemies all around me, and I will offer in God's tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and I will make melody to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud. Be gracious to me and answer me. Come, my heart says, seek God's face. Your face, O Lord, I do seek. Do not hide your face from me. Don't turn your servant away in anger, you who have been my help. Don't cast me off. Don't forsake me. Oh God, you are my salvation. If my parents forsake me, Lord, the Lord will take me up. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my enemies. Do not give me up to the will of my adversaries, to false witnesses who've risen up against me, and they are breathing out violence. I believe that I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord.
The way of being present. After Jesus had spoken those words, he went out with his disciples across the Kidron Valley to a place where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered. Now Judas, who had betrayed him, also knew the place, because Jesus often met there with his disciples. So Judas brought a detachment of soldiers together with police from the chief priests and the Pharisees, and they came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Then Jesus, knowing all that was about to happen, came forward and asked them, "Whom are you looking for?" They answered, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus replied, I am he. Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with them. When Jesus said to them, I am he, they stepped back and fell to the ground. Again, he asked them, whom are you looking for? And they said, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus answered, I told you that I am he. So if you are looking for me, let these men go. This was to fulfill the word that he had spoken. I did not lose a single one of those whom you gave me.
Do not fret because of the wicked. Do not be envious of wrongdoers, for they will soon fade like the grass and wither like the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good, so you will live in the land and enjoy security. Take delight in the Lord, and God will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in God, and God will act. God will make your vindication shine like the light, and the justice of your cause like the noonday. Be still before the Lord, and wait patiently for God. Do not fret over those who prosper in their way, over those who carry out evil devices. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to evil. For the wicked shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. Yet a little while, and the wicked will be no more. Though you look diligently for their place, they will not be there. But the meek shall inherit the land and delight themselves in abundant prosperity. The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them. But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for God sees that their day is coming. The wicked draw the sword and bend their bows to bring down the poor and needy and to kill those who walk uprightly. Their sword shall enter their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. Better is a little that the righteous person has than the abundance of many wicked. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholds the righteous. The Lord knows the days of the blameless, and their heritage will abide forever. They are not put to shame in evil times. In the days of famine, they have abundance.
When will people cease their fighting? When will armies wage no war? Nation
acknowledged the way. First, they took Jesus to the courtyard of the high priest, but Peter was standing outside of the gate. So the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out and spoke to the woman who guarded the gate and brought Peter in. And the woman said to Peter, "Are you not also one of this man's disciples? Are you?" And Peter said, "Oh, I'm not." Now the slaves and the police had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing around warming themselves. Peter also was standing with them, warming himself. Then the high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching, and Jesus answered, "I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple, where all the Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. So why do you ask me? Ask those who heard what I said to them. They know what I said." And when he had said this, one of the police standing nearby struck Jesus on the face, saying, "Is that how you answer the high priest?" And Jesus answered, "If I have spoken wrongly, testify to the wrong. But I have spoken rightly. Why do you strike me?" Then Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas, the high priest. Now Simon Peter was standing warming himself, and they asked Peter, "Are you not also one of those disciples?" "You are." And Peter denied it and said, "I am not." And one of the slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, "Did I not see you in the garden with him?" Again, Peter denied it. And at that moment, the cock crowed.
Jesus walked this lonesome valley. He had to walk it by himself. Oh, nobody else could walk it for him. He had to walk it by himself. We must walk this lonesome valley. We have to walk it by ourselves. Oh, nobody else can walk it for us. We have to walk it by ourselves.
"O rebellious children," says the Lord, "who carry out a plan, but not mine, who make an allowance, but against my will, adding sin to sin. Go now, write it before them on a tablet and inscribe it in a book, so that it may be for the time to come as a witness forever. For they are a rebellious people, faithless children, children who do not hear the instruction of the Lord, who says to the seers, 'Do not see,' and to the prophets, 'Do not prophesy against us what is right. Speak to us smooth things. Prophesy illusions. Leave the way, turn aside from the path. Let us hear no more about the Holy One of Israel.'"
the way of truth. Then they took Jesus from Caiaphas to Pilate's headquarters. It was early in the morning. They themselves did not enter the headquarters so as to avoid ritual defilement and to be able to eat the Passover. So Pilate went out to them and said, "So what accusation do you bring against this man?" The Jews answered, "If this man were not a criminal, we would not have handed him over to you." Pilate said, "Take him yourselves and judge him according to your law." The Jews reminded him that they are not permitted to put anyone to death. Pilate turns to Jesus and asks, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate said, "I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. So what have you done?" Jesus responded, "My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here." Pilate said, "So, you are a king?" Jesus replied, "You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." Pilate asked him, "What is truth?"
Pilate turned to the Jews and said, "I find no case against him. But you have a custom that I release someone to you at Passover. Do you want me to release to you the King of the Jews?" And the Jews shouted in reply, "Not this man, but Barabbas." Now, Barabbas was a bandit. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. And all the soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they dressed him up in a purple robe, and they mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" and kept striking him on the face. And Pilate said to the Jews, "Look, I'm bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no case against him." So Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and purple robe, and Pilate said, "Here is the man." And the Jews responded, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" And Pilate said, "Take him yourselves and crucify him. I find no case against him." And then the Jews said, "Well, we have a law, and according to the law, he ought to die because he's claimed to be the Son of God." Now when Pilate heard this, he was more afraid than ever. And Pilate turned to Jesus and said, "Where are you from?" Jesus gave no response. And Pilate said, "Do you refuse to speak to me? Do you not know that I have the power to release you and the power to crucify you?" And Jesus said, "You would have no power over me unless it had been given to you from above. Therefore, the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin."
From then on, Pilate tried to release him. But the Jews cried out and said, "If you release this man, you are no friend of the emperor. Everyone who claims to be a king sets himself against the emperor." When Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus outside and sat on the judge's bench at a place called the Stone Pavement, or in Hebrew, Gabbatha. Now it was the day of preparation for Passover, and it was about noon. And Pilate said to the people, "Here is your king." They responded, away with him, crucify him." "Shall I crucify your king?" asked Pilate. They responded, "We have no king but the emperor." Then Pilate handed Jesus over to them to be crucified.
Hope of the world, help for the hopeless, a humble servant, Savior, friend, God's only Son, sent to redeem us. Hosanna, bring praise without end. Amazing love, how great a Savior, Christ came to set the captive free. A love beyond all comprehension, the grace of God for all to see. Amazing love for you and me. Jesus walked this lonesome valley. He had to walk it by himself. Oh, nobody else could walk it for him. He had to walk it by himself. Jesus walked this lonesome valley, despised, rejected, and alone. He carried our sorrows, griefs, and burdens. He had to bear them all alone. Jesus bore them all alone. Amazing love, how great a Savior, Christ comes to set the captive free. A love beyond all comprehension, the grace of God for all to see. Amazing love for you and me.
Not all who journey know the way. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him, and they took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. Then they sat down there and kept watch over him. Over his head they put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." When two bandits were crucified with him, one on his right, one on his left, those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you're the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him, saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we'll believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he wants to. For he said, 'I am God's son.'" The bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way.
Has believed what we have heard, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by others, a man of suffering and acquainted with infirmity. And as one from whom others hide their faces, he was despised. And we held him of no account.
In God alone my soul can find rest and peace. In God my peace and joy. Only in God my soul can find its rest and peace. In God alone my soul can find rest and peace. In God my peace and joy. Only in God my soul can find its rest and peace.
So they took Jesus, and carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull, which in Hebrew is called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with two others, one on either side, with Jesus between them. Pilate also had an inscription written and put on the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this inscription because the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, in Latin, and in Greek. Then the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews, but this man said, 'I am King of the Jews.'" Pilate answered, "What I've written, I have written." When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his clothes and divided them into 4 parts, one for each soldier. They also took his tunic. Now the tunic was seamless, woven in one piece from the top. So they said to one another, "Let's not tear it, but cast lots for it to see who will get it." This was to fulfill what the scripture says. "They divided my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots." And that is what the soldiers did. Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. After this, when Jesus knew that all was now finished, he said, in order to fulfill the scripture, "I am thirsty." A jar full of sour wine was standing there. So they put a sponge full of the wine on a branch of hyssop and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the wine, he said, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit.
After these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one because of his fear of the Jews, asked Pilate to let him take away the body of Jesus. Pilate gave him permission, so he came and he removed his body. Nicodemus, who had first come to Jesus by night, also came, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, weighing about 100 pounds. They took the body of Jesus and wrapped it with the spices and linen cloths according to the burial custom of their people. Now there was a garden in the place where he was crucified, and in the garden there was a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid. And so, because it was the Jewish day of preparation, the tomb was nearby, and they laid Jesus there.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the cross? Were you there when they nailed him to the cross? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the cross? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you